Okay, I'm going to show you the hard parts of changing the back tire on one of these Xiaomi 365 scooters. Okay, this is a very common scooter type, Chinese made scooter. So basically I'm not going to show how to get the back tire off. It's really easy. There's a couple of bolts. I think they're 7.5 meter Allen head bolts that come out here. There's a little trim piece that comes off. Then you take the two bolts out and just slide the wheel and tire out. Okay, and then you can pry off the old tire. That shouldn't be too much of a problem for anybody. But here's the hard part. Okay, I'm going to show you the hard part of putting these things on. People struggle with these things for hours and hours and hours, and they're tough. They're tough to get the new tire on the bead here. So I'm going to show you some tricks. Okay, the first thing you might notice is the new tire, which is this one here, might look bigger than the old tire. Now when I saw this, I thought I got the wrong tire. It says 8.5 by 2 here, and the original one says 50/75 by 6.1. I believe at this point, without having done this yet, that these are the same tire. 8.5 by 2 is the same as 50/75 6.1. Now, this one does look taller. However, they're quite flexible. If you have a look, when you're squeezing it out on the tire, they will squeeze down quite a bit. And I think with this old tire being on the bead for that long and being inflated, see there's a big hole in it right there. That's why we're changing it. Being inflated, I think it's just kind of compressed itself down. So I still think this 8.5 by 2 is going to work. All right, we'll start by putting the tube inside the tire and then looking for the hole for the air inlet on the tube. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go from the brake disc side so that I can put the wheel in the vise later and push it down. I think that'll be the way to do it. So first thing I'm going to do, since it's a bit tricky to get the tube inlet into the hole, I'm just going to pull the tube out a little bit and just get it started in that hole there before I push the tire on. I'm going to pull the tube out a little bit and get it started like that. Okay. Then I'll put a rubber cap on, or a plastic cap on, just to keep it from coming out. Okay, now we can start trying to work the tire around the first, get kind of half the tire around the tube. Just work it around. This is the easy part. We haven't gotten to the hard part yet. Now you want to make sure that the tube stays in. Right? The tube's got to stay inside the tire. So you kind of got to work it. Keep the tube inside the tire. Right? And then we'll work it on. Tube inside the tire, and we'll work it all the way around. Okay, once you've kind of got the tire half on, let's call it, although it isn't half the work yet, make sure that tube gets tucked up inside the tire all the way around, because we don't want it pinched. Right? There. Yeah, so the tube's up inside the tire now. Should be good. Make sure it's up inside the tire all the way around. Now we're getting close to the hard part. We're getting close to the hard part here. So I'm going to mount it in the vise. You don't need a vise, but it kind of helps to hold things. I'm going to mount it in the vise. And I'm going to show you the next steps. I'm going to use 2 pairs of vice grips. I think these are 7-inch vice grips. Now people will report spending like 8 or 10 hours trying to force the damn tire onto the rim and getting halfway around, but then not getting being able to get the other half around. It pops off the other side. It's really frustrating because you have to get this stiff, sticky tire onto the bead, right? Onto the bead in there, and that's hard. So by using vice grips, what you really need to do is you need to squeeze the tire down so it can kind of sit. It can kind of sit into the wheel so you have enough room to push it over to the other side. That's the whole trick of this thing. The spokes here are good guidelines for where to put the vice grips. So I'm going to use this spoke over here to kind of squeeze this one down. And you got to squeeze it down enough so that the, I'm showing the old tire here, so that this is squeezed enough so it kind of fits in the low part of the rim in here so that you can stretch it over to the other side. That's the trick. Okay. So we're going to get this squeezed down. And we'll do it there, and then we'll do it in kind of in line with this next spoke over here. So open this up. Kind of squeeze it together and get a vice grip on it. Like that. Really stiff rubber. I mean, it's like a car tire almost, right? It's like a car tire, so you gotta work it like a car tire. Okay. Now, once you can get both ends in like that, you can see you can get this part of the tire in there tight, so that then you have a fighting chance of getting the other side of the tire around the bead. Now, if you're still having trouble, it may be helpful to use a heat gun just to warm that rubber up a little bit. It's really stiff. And eventually, you'll be able to push it on, heat it up. But you can see how tough they are. I've heard if you go to 10-inch tires, they're easier to work with than these 8-inch ones, but I have 8-inch right now, so that's what I'm working with. Come on, get on there, you bitch. Again, be very careful. You don't want to do all this work and then pinch a tube. But sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. When you don't have the proper tire spoons, you kind of improvise. I hope I haven't pinched the tube. There. Okay, you see it's popped on. Now, I'll just undo the vice grips. And we can start to inflate the tire. You see it's on all the way. Now if we inflate it, hopefully that tire will pop up onto the bead. But you can see it's on all the way around now, which is good. Kind of make sure the tire's up, the tube's up inside the tire all the way around. And then we can inflate. See if we can put some air in this thing and get it to Okay, so we'll put just a few pounds in it and just kind of see if it starts to move onto the bead. And it looks like it is. It looks like that tube is starting to push the tire up onto the bead. Looks fairly even. Okay, let's go right to 50, which is what these are rated at, and see what happens. Okay, that's called 50. Okay. We'll put our plastic cap on. Yeah, that feels good. I mean, that's it. So success. So we'll put it back on the scooter and see what it feels like. But that's how difficult these things are. Again, the key is to get some kind of clamps. I used actually 3 vice grips at the end to push the tire together so I could get it into the low part of the wheel, which would then give me enough excess material to be able to push around the outside. Just barely. I had to heat it up and even pry the end part on, but try doing that with just your hands, trying to pinch one end and squeeze the other end over. It's just about impossible. So you need some kind of mechanical help, like the vice grips. The vice grips work good. I was able to squeeze this one end to get it tight up against the small part of the rim, which then gave me enough material to push around the outside. And that's really the trick to putting on these scooter tires for this 365 scooter, or any kind of 8-inch wheel, which is pretty tough to deal with. Anyway, we'll put it back on the scooter and give it a go. And thanks for watching, everybody.